12,000 years ago, at an archaeological site called Ain Malaha in modern-day Israel, an elderly human was laid to rest. Placed gently under their hand was a puppy. This burial comes from the Natufian culture, a late Epi-Paleolithic hunter-gatherer society in the Levant, known for establishing some of the first permanent human settlements. That single gravesite is part of a pattern stretching back over 14,000 years. From North America to Scandinavia, ancient humans carefully and repeatedly buried dogs. We do not find agricultural livestock treated this way. Deceased dogs were laid on their sides, their tails curled carefully toward their feet, or placed with their limbs deliberately tucked together. At the ancient coastal site of Ashkelon, archaeologists uncovered the remains of roughly 1,000 dogs, each one carefully placed in its own unmarked grave. The ritualistic disposal of the dead is a behavior humans almost exclusively reserve for their own species. Taking the time and energy to inter another animal as if it were a member of the human family requires us to look past simple cultural quirks. This represents a deep biological anomaly. To understand the origin of this bond, we have to travel back to Siberia 23,000 years ago, during the last glacial maximum. This was the period in Earth's climate history when massive ice sheets reached their greatest global extension, creating an unforgiving, freezing wasteland. Look at this map of Pleistocene Siberia, highlighting the rapidly shrinking habitable zones. The Pleistocene was a geological epoch spanning from 2.5 million to 11,700 years ago, characterized by repeated, severe glaciations. You can see how the extreme cold forced late Pleistocene wolves and human hunter-gatherers to occupy the exact same ecological niches. Notice how the wolf population data splits on the map here. Natural selection began favoring a specific subset of wolves that were less fearful, allowing them to scavenge on the refuse left behind at human camps. While other massive Ice Age predators, like the dire wolf, went entirely extinct during this period, these scavenging wolves survived specifically by adapting to human proximity. The brutal survival mechanics of a frozen planet forced a truce. Our fiercest competitor traded its independence for a steady food source, becoming a dependent, commensal partner. Over generations, the instinct for human proximity became encoded in the canine genome through a series of structural mutations. This diagram compares human and canine DNA strands, highlighting a specific mutated sequence. In humans, an alteration here causes Williams-Bjorn syndrome, characterized by an indiscriminately friendly personality. Expanding to a behavioral chart, we see this variant produces extreme, stereotypical hypersociability in dogs. We often associate dog breeding with the Victorian era, where humans selectively pair animals to create floppy ears, curled tails, or specific terrier shapes. But long before humans began designing dogs for their physical appearance, natural selection had already engineered the underlying inescapable biological drive for cross-species affection. You can trigger that ancient biological hardware today simply by holding a sustained mutual gaze with a dog. This cyclical flowchart illustrates the oxytocin gaze positive loop. Oxytocin is a neuropeptide hormone produced in the hypothalamus that regulates social bonding, trust, and maternal attachment. When a human and a dog make eye contact, both brains experience a massive spike in this chemical. When we overlay the dog-human oxytocin loop with a mother-infant loop, you can see that the chemical pathways are identical. Dogs have effectively co-opted the biological attachment system designed to bond human parents to their children. This chemical reality explains why Paleolithic humans carefully laid a puppy to rest with an elder. Paleolithic refers to the early phase of the Stone Age, ending around 12,000 years ago. In these ancient cultures, the dog occupied a category separate from both the human family and the wild world. A connection forged in the Ice Age and written into our DNA remains visible 14,000 years later in the fossil record of our shared graves.